Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. No walls and ready for my husband anytime. The ultimate goal in a well-fucked couple is to be open to each other constantly, always humming with erotic energy, knowing looks, skirt raises, come hither fingers, a gentle ass braise as you walk past, a 5-minute makeout session in the kitchen, a blowjob in the car on the way to dinner. In a well-fucked couple, this energy is always alive and present. They do not need to spend hours melting ice to get boiling water. You are already living in a steady sexual simmer all the time. Is this even possible, you ask? Absolutely. This is your new normal. This is your default state. When you start to stray from this place, you stop, drop, and get to work and play. You figure out how you've gotten off track and you get right back on. Because you know that when you are using your intimate relationship as you are meant to, as your most primal energy source to plug into, far better than grounding, breathwork, meditation, psychedelics, shadow work, and all the superfoods you could guzzle, your well-fucked energy now fuels your lives. Ida and her partner thought that they had a good sex life. They had sex a couple times a week. She would have a clitoral orgasm. He came in 5 minutes. Well, they checked the boxes. I'd say the absolute minimum of boxes, but they checked a few. They didn't realize that their elevated sex life and relationship could and was meant to heal her sexual trauma, grow his cock, make them richer, instantly remove her chronic vaginal pain, transform him into an alpha male, ignite her inner insatiability so she wants sex all the time, have her find God, drop excess body weight, calm their children and they're now better behaved, harness the energy to achieve their dreams and goals. Well, now they know, and you can too. Everyone can. It's the Anami guarantee. This is not the domain of some lucky couples. Everyone can have this in their lives as their daily reality. Let's hear from well-fucked all-star Ida about how she and her partner made this their new normal. Well-fucked all-stars! Hello, we have Ida here today all the way from Finland. Hello, Ida.
Hi, Kim.
Thank you for joining us. So tell us about your journey as a couple. You and your partner took the Coming Together salon, and tell me where you were when you started this journey and then where you got to. And then I'm actually curious, when you came into the work, were you both completely ready to go? Did anybody need convincing more than the other? How did that even look for you?
Yeah, I can share that. We were actually both really excited to do this work. And when I told my husband this is what's going to happen, because I want to do this, he was all in. So I love that. We have been together for almost 13 years with my husband, Tony. And we always had a really strong and good relationship. So we'd be that like newlywed couple even after 10 years. And our friends would be like, well, no couple is always happy, well, except for Ida and Tony. So we had like a good starting point to all of this work. Sexually speaking, back then, I would probably have said that we have a good sex life. Right now, I won't say that because I know so much better is possible. But we'd have sex basically like once a week. And that was enough for both of us. And the sex would be anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes with foreplay. And I'd have one G-spot orgasm. So I thought that was good, because I have many friends that they don't even get orgasms and only clitoral. So I thought that this is as good as it gets.
Right.
But we did have some issues with like premature ejaculation for sure. And we tried to find help for that, but we couldn't find anything. And the internet was full of really crappy advice, like jerk off as much as you can, which I know now that it's just gonna shoot out all the sexual energy from the body. So it makes it just worse, actually.
Right. Yeah.
And we couldn't find any help, and I would have paid anything to get help, but no one knew what to do. And we felt stuck in that. And we did have some good experiences too. It wasn't all crap, but mostly like the day-to-day sex life was, well, not good. Just once a week is not enough.
Well, you say that now, but from like in a retrospect, right? But at the time, you thought that was okay, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes people will say to me, well, oh, the people who come to see you must be in real trouble in their marriage, in real trouble in their sex life. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes, but not always. Sometimes people have a decent sex life, or they think it's pretty good. They just don't know what more is out there and how many further levels that they can attain through the kind of stuff that I talk about, right? Which is, I want everyone to be having this very high level, elevated, spiritually and ecstatically awakened sex life. And even the types of orgasms that are available, or the idea that men can go for longer than 5 or 10 minutes in intercourse, right? Which a lot of people would accept that that's just considered, normal behavior. Or as good as it gets, exactly. Like you said, as good as it gets.
Yeah, and once you know that there's so much more to be had, then you want that for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, how did you find my work?
So I went to this like a spiritual event, and there was this woman. I felt really drawn to go talk to her, and she like channeled information from the spirit world or something like this, and she told me that me and my husband, we would go through kind of a rough patch, and we would notice that even though we have a really strong marriage, we would have a lot of like small issues that would turn into a bigger issue. So like these small things coming up. And then I think it was like a week later that I found you on Instagram. And I had listened to your podcast once or twice before, and I loved it, but I wasn't ready for that like years ago. But this time I felt, that boom, that this is it. This is what's going to happen. And I found this one episode on your podcast, How to Fuck Your Woman into Oblivion, I think it's called. I think it was Jim, maybe, the guy who was speaking in it.
Yeah, Jim
I love that episode.
Yeah.
Yes, he was so good with like just telling his story, and it really spoke to me. And especially, it was about polarity, and that it kind of felt like that was the missing piece in my marriage, because I had the best husband. He's loyal, and he's always been there for me, and held my hair when I was throwing up trauma and all. Like, he was a solid, good husband and a great dad. But there was something always missing. Like, I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was always missing like this more masculine side of him. And that's horrible to say to someone that you love. Like, can't you fight me once, or just be more of a man, because he's such a great husband. You don't want to say that to someone you love. But there was always like something inside me just felt that there's something missing. And when I heard that podcast episode, I knew, okay, so polarity, that's the issue. We have a huge issue with polarity. And you can be a good husband and be respectful and loving. That it doesn't have to and shouldn't change. But you can still be like assertive and be the leader of the family. And especially during sex, you don't want the soft guy in bed. You want the one that's going to take you. So I really felt that this is it. Like this needs to happen in our relationship.
So
And so
you
I showed the episode to Tony, and he was just all in after that.
I love that. And we hear that so much, especially with the polarity theme, which for people who might not know exactly what that is, the whole concept that women are innately more feminine, men are innately more masculine. Wow, what a concept. But in this day and age, it really is. It's almost like enough to get you censored to say that out loud. Um, and that you have far more sexual chemistry the more exaggerated those polarities are. So the more the woman's in her feminine, the more the man's in his masculine. That's what creates a natural chemistry, like sparks fly. And it's such an aha moment. We hear that so much from couples, that there's something that they can't quite put their finger on, something that they know is amiss within the connection. And then they hear this idea of polarity articulated, and then this light bulb goes on where they finally understand, okay, this is the thing that's been at play in our relationship for years or maybe even decades, that they were struggling with but didn't have language for it, didn't even really understand what it was. So I love that you had that crystallization and then you were both on board, right? That you're both in agreement. Okay, yeah, we are out of balance here and we'd like to create more of a spark and both inhabit, each of our essences more and more fully.
Yeah, and I always try to change myself. Like I need to change. I need to be more accepting of him. But it would never have led to this relationship we have now. Like with this, like harmonious living together, it just works and flows so much easier.
Right, when we're in our natural states. And there's been a lot of socialization, and especially of late with the whole gender neutrality and very effeminate men, really removing the idea of masculinity and archetypal masculinity, the alpha male, trying to vilify it as being toxic, where, there's a reason why 50 Shades of Grey was as popular as it was. All these women getting wet and masturbating to this book all over the world because it features a strong, dominant alpha male character who takes charge and calls the shots with his woman. And every woman wants to feel that in her man. And if she isn't, I'll say she's in denial or she's in some kind of protective mechanism state where it works for her to have a very safe, plaintive, passive kind of man who she doesn't want to have sex with.
Those couples don't have sex. It's just 100%.
Yeah, they're buddies. We're such good buddies. We're such good companions. We're such good parents and business partners. Yeah. Did you ever consider that marriage was actually about having a sexual relationship with your partner? Perhaps
Yeah.
the most, if it is absolutely the most important part of a marriage. Okay, so you're both on board with this idea of polarity. So then what happens?
Yeah, so then we made up a rule that sex was our number one priority from that moment. This was
Love it.
around 2 years ago. And like we were all in, like 110%. We dove like head first into the deep end. And it was quite rough even in the beginning. We'd like have sex until midnight and my husband had to get up at 5. And it was quite crazy. But looking back on it, I do appreciate how all in he was. Like he was committed to me and to this work, and I'm always going to love him for that because it changed our marriage and our relationship completely. And so, yeah, so the number one rule was that sex is a priority, and we're going to do something sexual every single day. And it can be like yoni lingam massage or sex or just like connecting, whatever. But it needs to, like, we're not going to sit in front of the TV anymore. It's going to be all about the sex.
I love
And
that.
then
And
the
let me just
second thing,
interject here and applaud you for that, because the couples who really do have the most dramatic breakthroughs are the ones who do exactly what you've said. They are all in, they're committed, they're like, okay, so we're up till midnight, getting up at 5, we have less sleep. But what actually happens, and I'm going to guess that you saw this, is that when you're having that level of sex, you are more energized, more rejuvenated. You bound out of bed. You don't wake up tired. Oh no, we shouldn't have stayed up that late. You wake up glowing and euphoric and floating off into your day.
yeah, and you need less sleep. I noticed that I can get like 2 hours less sleep, and I manage. It's fine because the orgasms give so much energy.
Yes. I love it. Okay, so you're having a lot more sex, and then what begins to happen?
Yeah, so the second kind of rule we made up was that uh, we, and especially I, are not going to have sex unless I'm 100% open. And
And what does that mean to
then
you to be 100% open?
I feel my body is open for him. I'm inviting him in, and there's nothing like pushing back, because once I started doing this, I noticed that quite often, almost every time, there was something like an energetic thing, like putting your hands up and holding the other one away. And I felt that there was something between us that I just couldn't open up, and I wasn't like I couldn't get horny because there was something there.
What did you do about that then?
We decided that even though we won't have sex, if I feel something coming up, we won't go in front of the TV either. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see what comes up, because there is always a reason. If you're not horny, if you're not wanting to have sex, there's always a reason for that. And I don't want to push that away anymore. I want to bring it here, and I want to talk about it, and I want to heal it so that I can be open to having sex all the time.
Amazing.
And this worked really well. The first year was a lot about trauma coming up, and there was this one evening where I noticed my husband, he came in to kiss me, and I just noticed that I leaned back just a little bit, like just an energetic thing, a little bit. And normally I wouldn't have reacted to this. I would have just gone on to have sex. But now I knew that there was something here and I need to talk about it. So we went and sat down on the bed, and I told him, I don't know what I'm about to say, but I know I have to talk. And then I started sharing, and this memory came up from my childhood, where I was at summer camp, and I was around 8 years old, and I was sexually abused. And this was a blocked memory. I did not know that this had happened. I was never able to tell anyone as a child. And I just forgot about it for around 25 years. And now it came up because I listened to this tiny little thing inside me that said no. And I shared the whole story with my husband for the first time ever. I told anyone about this. And it was so healing. And it was funny because even though it was a blocked memory and I couldn't really, like, I didn't know that I had this memory, I could still say or tell exactly what had happened in such detail. I remembered all of it. Once I started talking, it just came out. And my body started like twitching, and the trauma started coming out of my body. And my husband just held me and comforted me. And that was sort of the starting point of a really big healing journey. Yeah, the healing journey is just ending right about now, because these last few weeks I dove deep into this trauma, and it's been the roughest time of my life. But I noticed that there is a lot of new type of sexual energy arising when I heal this trauma. Like my body, I used to have pain during sex, especially in the cervical area deep in. And it just disappeared like this when I really looked at the trauma and I healed it. And sex, like, it feels so different now. Like, I can feel everything, and it's so pleasurable, like pleasure times 100 when I don't have that trauma there anymore. Like, it's amazing what's happening to the body, and the sexual energy, it just flows, like it just comes and it hits me. And even though I'm tired, and it doesn't matter, the sexual energy just, it comes naturally. I don't have to work in order to feel the sexual energy to be horny. It just comes here when I don't have trauma anymore.
That's incredible. I love all of that. I mean, I love that you listened to that very small, subtle no, that you were that perceptive to hear it, and then and listen and follow that, right? And not push it aside, which is what I think so many people do, right? They kind of feel programmed or obligated, duty bound to just carry forward. And that's my issue with things like lube, right? Is that women are being programmed to constantly override any kind of signals of the body. So I love that you honored that. And I love that by sitting and talking through true that all of these things just unfolded and came tumbling out of you. That is so beautiful. And I love that you really, like I said, honored your own process and just followed, not knowing where the road would go, but realizing that this is a detour or, you know, a side road we have to take right now and see what happens on a quantum level, right? We talk about this idea, quantum healing and quantum leaps, where when you can have this kind of experience and then it changes things immediately in a huge way, where like pain can evaporate or some majestic, magical thing can happen that just, it takes you leaps and bounds from where you are right now to somewhere else within moments, right? And it sounds like it may have been more than just moments for you, but still, that's really, really amazing work for you to have done.
Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful to go through that, because this is the first time in my entire life that I'm having sex, because this happened as a child. So I have never experienced sex without trauma. Like literally these last few weeks are the first time in my life I'm experiencing that. That's quite beautiful to see what's normal. Like this is normal to be like sexually free. That's the normal state.
So what was the difference? Like if you say that right now, the first time's experiencing it without trauma, what's the difference between now and before? Is it just the level of pleasure that's so much higher? What would you say?
It's the fact that I don't have to work in order to get to an aroused state. Like I can just feel like someone's throwing the sexual energy on me, and then it's just here. And the sex, like it used to be so much work that I have to like try to have sex and find the right way to have sex. Now I just have sex because it feels good. And just the amount of sexual energy in the body, it's incredible how much there can be of this sexual energy. Like I used to think that I had a great sex before, but right now it's completely different. It's hard to describe, but I just have a lot more sexual energy. And like you said, the pleasure, I can feel everything so much. Like when my husband touches me, it just feels like heightened senses, sort of.
That's amazing. So how else would you describe the changes? So let's talk, is there anything else that you would say that you could quantify that was different than before and after?
Well, I don't know how much was related to trauma and how much to the polarity work and everything else we did, but I might want to talk about the polarity stuff, because that was the whole reason we got into this work and into your course as well. My husband thought that maybe just all men aren't like the alpha male, and he thought that maybe he just is the softer kind, more like a teddy bear. And thankfully I knew, because I'd listened to your podcast, that it's not true. Like all men can pull out the alpha side of them. And once we started doing this sort of, like he needs to be more assertive and make decisions and be the leader and take charge in bed, we noticed that there was a lot of emotional blocks for him, and maybe even like some trauma that led to the fact that he couldn't be the alpha. Like it was emotional work for him too, to find that side of him. And there were a lot of fights in the beginning. Like he'd go into his feminine and I'd get so annoyed. And I do this thing where I know many women do this, where they sort of push and push and push, because they want the like tiger to come out of the man and put up a little bit of a fight. And then my husband would go even more into his shell, because he was so afraid of conflict, and it just got worse. But what I really wanted was for him to like yell at me, do something, to just don't hide when I get mad, but really look at me and look at the issue and be brave enough to have those discussions. And yeah, so it was a lot of work in the beginning, but we started to notice shifts quite quickly. So there was this one moment I want to share, because it was so beautiful. We were having a fight about something, I can't remember. I think it was because I wanted him to sort of lead our sex life. So he was in charge, and he made sure that we got into bed every night. And that was sort of his way of practicing this polarity thing. And then we were having a fight, and like he had made up all these excuses why we weren't having sex. Like he was so tired, and there was this and that. And then he got really quiet, and he was like, okay, so this pity party stops now. And then he took me into the bedroom, And I had been nagging him all day because we didn't have sex, so I was annoyed at him. And then, and he used to do this thing where he like blindfolds me, and then he teases me with a feather or something like that. And so he took out the blindfold again. And I was a little bit, are you going to do the blindfold thing again? I was hoping you would like throw me around the room or something a bit more like rough. And then he took the blindfold and held it in front of my face and was like, so you have been nagging me all day. I don't want to listen to that. So this goes over a mouth. And I was like, yes, yeah, baby. So he put the blindfold over my mouth to shut me up. And then he tied my hands behind my back. And we had amazing sex that time. And he was really in his masculine and just taking charge and making sure that the sex would happen. And that's exactly what I wanted out of him, to be like the leader and make sure that things that we have sex. And so that was a really good memory. And like this way we found a balance of polarities. Like sometimes we'd go this way and it didn't work, and then we find our way again.
I love that. And so, how did that translate in your day to day life? Because that, there's the dynamic that happens in bed with polarity about taking charge, and then outside in your everyday life with him taking more charge. So, what other things did you notice in your day to day interactions too?
Oh, so much. I am so much happier now. It's so much easier and things just flow. And I just love when he takes charge. It's easier for me to be my feminine and just like we don't fight as much, like at all. And I'm much happier with him, and I feel more comfortable in his arms because I know he's going to carry me. And like even with our daughter, we have a 3.5-year-old. Like he used to be such a pushover with her. Like she would be completely deciding what they're going to do, and he didn't, even with her he couldn't be assertive. So that has completely changed. And just a week ago she didn't want to put on her pajamas, and he was really like, now you're going to go put on your PJs. And she listened because he was in his masculine energy. So like small things like this, and it's just, there's so much more flow and harmony between us. Like we're on the same team and we get along, and we have so much more. Of course, the sexual spark is much better right now, and it's all affected our entire relationship, I would say, in so many ways that it's hard to even describe. We're
What
much happier.
what happened with the premature ejaculation journey? How did the stamina building go?
Once we got the tools, it actually changed in almost like one session. So we'd go from like 5 minutes or maximum of 10 minutes to 20 plus minutes in just one session when he started using the techniques. And what I noticed also when we did the polarity work, that affected his stamina quite a lot. So when he's in his masculine, he's gonna be much like stronger in bed too, and not like run the first exit. So we had a really quick like change in that, and that's been so great because it affected my pleasure immediately, because I was already quite open to having more orgasms, but he just couldn't get me past the first one because he'd come. So my orgasms just went in the better direction as soon as his stamina got better. So that was quite an easy journey in the end.
I love what you said about taking the quick or the first exit, because I feel my experience in watching men with premature ejaculation is that it's an avoidance of intimacy. They're bailing very quickly. And I love that you observed that parallel, that when your man was inhabiting his sexual energy more, his masculine energy more, that also showed up as a more inhabited cock, right? Being willing to be present sexually, present within his cock, present within you, and ride that all the way home. So that's beautiful. So how did that shift your orgasms, because we talk about how for women to be really, women are insatiable, right? Men, there's this myth out there that men are more sexual than women, which isn't really the case. Women actually have far more sexual stamina and potential and longevity. Unless men develop their stamina, then they can keep up with women. But the issue is that most women never get a chance to even touch that because they have men who have very quick orgasms, and the intercourse experience is over so fast that they barely get started before it's finished, and they start to feel like, why would I even have intercourse? This is actually kind of lame. So you're having longer intercourse, which then would naturally lead into more vaginal orgasms, G-spot orgasms, cervical orgasms. So what happened there for you?
Yeah, well, as soon as the stamina got better and I started doing my yoni egg practice, I think it was maybe 2 weeks, and I had, for the first time ever, multiple orgasms, and it was 4 orgasms in a row. So quite a big leap from 1 to 4 in just one session. And yeah, ever since then, it's like even if we have a quick fuck, it's always at least 4 orgasms. I rarely have less than 4 because I'm already so well practiced that it's easy to get to those orgasms. And
And
one thing I noticed also just in the last like 6 months or something, is how the orgasms, they sort of start to melt together. So instead of having like 4 or 5 different orgasms, I'll have just one long, like 30 minutes orgasm. And that's been like a really good experience to notice that there are so many levels to orgasms, that it's not just like having a few, but they can actually start to take over. They feel in a much bigger area of the body as well. Like it used to be quite tiny, and now it's in my entire like pelvic area that I can feel the G-spot orgasm.
right, full body orgasms and full being orgasms. I'd say that the deeper orgasms are much more multi-dimensional, right? There's more physical pleasure, but
Mm-hmm.
there's more emotional, energetic, spiritual, where you even people describe with their cervical orgasms feeling like they've seen God. They feel this
Mm-hmm.
oneness of spiritual awakening even within themselves. So how do you feel that that's changed you as a woman, right? As I would say, you're coming more into being a well fucked woman. And what does that look and feel like for you?
Well, I think it's changed my entire life. So many things started shifting since we did the sexual work. We have been completely reborn. Even my work has changed completely. I just I feel not just physically satisfied from the sex, but satisfied in a much deeper way, like with life. And I feel like I've found God because, like you said, during cervical orgasms, you see God quite literally. That's like the God energy, all this light. So it's made me much, I think, a much softer. I used to be quite like I used to nag him a lot. I was really like I used to be irritated a lot, and I'm still like I'm not the most zen person. I mean, I can be this type of masculine energy also, but when I have the man alongside of me who sort of he balances out all of this. So I feel like I've found so many new levels of my femininity inside me. And I can be soft and vulnerable and submissive and all of this, and I love it. And I just feel so much happier. It's changed basically everything, the relationship and how our daughter feels, and she's much happier now that we're like getting along, and like the entire life changes when you find this sexual energy.
So I would talk about that as well, that the children will manifest the unexpressed latent issues within the parents. And so couples often find that when they have stuff going on between them, unresolved issues, that the children are acting out more. They're having more challenges, behavioral issues with their kids that they're just absorbing through osmosis. So it sounds like once you guys found your harmony, that was reflected within your daughter as well.
Yeah, yeah, and it's much easier just our family dynamic just works in a different way. And she doesn't have to look at fighting as much. And I think that's really important, because when you see, and also to show like the sexual side, you can hug and you can kiss and squeeze your wife's butt. That's like completely normal. And that's part of life, and it shows her an example of what relationships are supposed to look like. And what makes me even more happy is that she's going to choose a healthy man for her, because she's seen this at home. This is the normal relationship for her, where we have the respect and this like intimacy and love and connection of this level. So that's going to affect all our kids and their relationships in the future. And that really makes me happy, that she's going to choose a good man because her dad was a good man, and she could see how happy we were.
And what energy changes did you see in your husband as he became more like operating more in his masculine in the day to day?
So much. He's a different man. I mean, we still work on polarity. It's like he's more peaceful, like calm. And he used to be super calm, but in a like deeper sense. He has this. He's much like happier and more zen, you know. And I really love when he like takes charge. And if we need to go somewhere, then it's not me doing all the work, but he's gonna be handling all the stuff, and we're going to do it together much more. Yeah, it's affected actually his entire like physical body. Once he started doing the polarity stuff, he just suddenly started losing weight, like without any, we didn't do anything, we always eat healthy, but he just started losing weight like that. And his dad asked him, have you been on a diet, or how did you lose all this weight? What have you been doing? And he was like, I haven't been doing anything. And I thought to myself, well, you have been doing something. You have been doing your wife quite a lot. And that's the only thing that has changed, is just our sexual, like the polarity. And his body is responding to that. And I can see it so clearly when he goes back into his old habits and this more feminine energy, he's going to start putting on weight. And then again, when he's in his masculine, the weight goes off. It's so clear on him.
Wow.
So that's been really interesting. And also, I have also noticed quite a big change in his like dick size. Like he's much bigger because he's taking up all this space that he didn't used to. He used to hide a little, and you can see it on the dick if it's like completely out there and taking up all this space. So it's been quite a big change in his size, which is not too bad for me.
Yes, fantastic side benefit. Absolutely. So, is there anything else that you would add that we haven't shared?
It's maybe just the way the sexual work affects the entire life. So it's not just about the sex and the chemistry, but you find your dreams, and you can reach your dreams much easier. And it affects the way we work, for example, quite a lot. When the man is assertive in his job, it's gonna bring different results for him. And for me also as an entrepreneur, to be coming from that feminine place and creating stuff from that really soft feminine place, it's brought a lot of like more customers to me, and everything has really shifted. And just if you want to reach your dreams and your goals, then I think sexual work is the way to do that. It's so effective.
Yeah, and both in that outer productivity sense, but even on the inner sense of emotional healing, like what you talked about with clearing your trauma, even this idea of your husband, his body changing, right? This holographic change that happens with this alchemy, and sexual alchemy, using our sexual energy consciously, is one of the most powerful tools we have for change and transformation, growth, rebirth, birthing ourselves. So I love hearing that. One of the things you said that I thought was so perfect and beautiful was that you feel now that you have no walls and you're ready for your husband anytime. And I think that really is the best example of that perfect polarity in action, where the feminine is in pure receptivity, because you've done all of this work to clear that space so that you can exist there.
Yeah, that's the new normal. That's how it's supposed to be. And it feels so amazing to be in that space where you're just like, yeah, you don't have to work in order to have good sex. It's there all the time. It's a blessing.
I love it. So well done. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us into your process to hear everything. It's so inspiring and valuable.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is what your intimate relationship is meant to do for your life. Elevate it, set it on fire, and quantum leap you in every part of your existence. All you need to do is get fucked. Well fucked. And I can help you to do just that. My Coming Together for Couples Salon opens for registration next week. You can sign up to our email list to be notified of when the doors open, and you can receive our free 7-day sex cleanse and get a leg up on all the practices in the salon in the meantime. This 7-day sex date will give you a taste of what we do with emotional and sexual home play for the next week. You will learn how to keep the simmer going 24/7, the almighty G-spot and squirting 101, powerful stamina techniques for him. To sign up, go to kimanami.com, look for Sexual Savant Salons, and then click on Coming Together. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and send somebody else the gift of a multi-orgasmic and transformational love life by sharing this episode with them. If you'd like to go deeper into all things orgasms, sign up for my free Orgasmopedia series, where you'll learn about 9 different types of orgasms everyone can have. Go to kimanami.com and you'll see the sign up there. Come one, come all.